Welcome to the show. I've got Dion. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm
Great
looking
to have
forward
you
to it.
here. And this is the first time we've had someone from outside of Canada, so this is a special episode for us. I guess because of that, do you want to share a bit about yourself and what you do in Suriname?
Yeah, of course. I'm Dion. In Suriname, I'm working with one of the biggest TV stations here, and I'm a sports presenter. I've been doing sports for about, I think, 12 years now, doing anchoring some of the national programs. I've been a volleyball player myself, or I am a volleyball player myself. Actually, that's the way I enrolled in this. So that's what I am. Been covering the national team for about I think 8 years right now. And I also do a show on Facebook that's every Thursday where we had our last guest was the man himself, Kieran. So that was a very good show. So I'm returning the favor.
That was a lot of fun being on there. It was really energetic all around. Um, so, for some of our viewers who aren't aware, what exactly has happened in Suriname in terms of soccer, in terms of football, as you say, or as most of the world says? What's different than how it was 2, 3 years ago? What's gone on in your federation?
It's a pretty obvious answer, of course. We've gotten the opportunity to use the double nationality, as it's been called. We've been trying to work this out for ages. Don't forget people like Ballon d'Or winners Ruud Gullit. They were born in Suriname. Clarence Seedorf, Edgar Davids. Just imagine if those guys would have played for our national team, where we would have been. So we're gradually making the first step in trying to get our national team to go to the World Cup and trying to make our national team fully professional. We got Dean Khore for the second term. The first term, he was unsuccessful in qualifying for the World Cup. We got knocked out by Nicaragua. And after that, he got a job and he started setting things in motion to get these players who play abroad to play for our national team, starting with Nigel Hasselbank. We qualified for the Gold Cup, and after Nigel played for the national team, a lot of players followed. So we're actually in the first steps of getting to the very highest level.
I remember in 2010, if I'm not mistaken, you guys made the second final, the second last round of qualification, correct?
Yes, yes,
So what?
we
Go ahead.
yes. No, no.
What changed between then and now? That's because I remember reading there were similar efforts to create a passport program where you could recruit dual Dutch nationals. What's allowed you to do that now that didn't then?
I don't know, man. To tell you the truth, I've been asking these questions to our national federation. I've been asking these questions to the SVB, to Dean Khore himself, and he just said it finally happened. We finally got this law through our national assembly, and it just worked out. We were doing this a long time ago, but as things tend to go in Suriname, it takes a lot of time. So it finally came about, and we finally can use these guys to play for our national team.
And I watched your interview with the iMaxit guy who was talking about Jamaica and Suriname, and you sort of had a similar question to what I'm about to ask here in terms of, how popular it is to bring in people who may never been to Suriname or Jamaica in his case to play for the national team. So in terms of Suriname fans in your own country, how popular is it to maybe bring in a better crop of players, but maybe not as many domestic ones?
As of now, it's pretty popular because we played well. We won against Aruba 6-0. We won against Cayman Islands 3-0. So it's pretty popular. The first things to happen was they were not really that happy about people coming to play for a national team because they were thinking about people who were playing in the local competition, playing for Robin Hood and Transvaal, as are the biggest teams here historically speaking. and they had some genuine concerns. What will happen to the 12-year-old from Paramaribo who's training every day? Will his chances be taken away to play for the national team? But of course, if there's a big talent in Suriname, his chances are significantly higher to play in a World Cup if we have all these professional players. And of course, scouts will come here and we'll see those guys. So it's about, it was about 60-40, but I think now it's about 70% of the people are very happy that these steps are being taken, and but we'll get to know our crowd much better when we start losing matches eventually.
Yeah, and I noticed that for sure that the support for Dean and everything he's done seems very high. And what do Suriname fans think about us? Think about Canada? What do you think your chances are, and what do the fans think in Suriname against
They
Canada specifically?
Of course, everybody knows that Canada is the big match. I wasn't happy at all that we drew Canada in the first round, of course, and particularly this Canada, because I think it's your best team in maybe forever. I did not. You guys, you have a player who was the first player of the CONCACAF to be in the FIFA Pro 11. So that says a lot. Nobody from Mexico made that team. Nobody from the US ever made that team. You have a guy who made the FIFA Pro 11. So they are fun times of Canada. How do they like our chances? Suriname is optimistic about the chances. Personally, I'm a little bit more realistic because, of course, there's been some posts circulating on social media today about the value of the national team of Suriname. In the Caribbean, we have the highest value in total, and that's about 19 million. Jonathan David is worth 30 million. So it's it's pretty tough. The forward you have from Besiktas, he's worth 11 million. So if you put those things in perspective, Canada has a stronger squad, and the difference is between Suriname and Canada in my eyes, you guys have genuinely world-class players. We don't have world-class players. We have players who know each other maybe a little bit better, but we don't really have those world-class players who can make the difference. So for me, Canada is the favorite.
That's an interesting perspective because, like, when I look at your team, um, I feel like transfer values are a bit misleading because we would kill for Ryan Donk on our back line because we don't have anything like that. But that's a really interesting perspective, and I didn't really expect it. Um, so we're going to move on to a bit more of a tactical discussion now for how you see Suriname playing in these two upcoming matches against Bermuda and Canada. Um, so if I'm not mistaken, I tried to watch part of your games in the past window, and I noticed I think it was a back three you played against the Cayman Islands and a back four against Aruba. So, which is it going to be? Do you think against Canada? Which should it be? How should the Suriname team play?
I don't know yet. I don't know yet. Of course, the biggest proposition is how do you stop Alfonso Davies? I know Canada is much more than Davies, but that will be the first thing on Dean's mind. How do we stop this guy? And do we stop him playing with a back five, or do we stop him playing with a back four? I personally don't think it will be a back five because we played with with three center backs against Cayman Islands because almost out of necessity. So the first match against Cayman, our attacking players weren't involved. So Sherry wasn't involved. Biseswar was in the stadium but wasn't ready to play. He wasn't registered yet. Jaron Sherry wasn't ready to play. Forlian Josephson. Actually, the whole midfield and front line wasn't really there yet. He had to make some decisions, and I almost had a feeling as if he just shoehorned every central defender in the team. We played with 3 central defenders, even 4 because Ryan Donk played on the midfield that match. But that was pure out of necessity. I think the match against Aruba is much more a better view on how things will go. I think it'll be a 4-3-3 as every team plays in Holland almost, and most of our guys are schooled in Holland. So I personally think you could expect something in that area.
You were talking about the Cayman Islands, and from what I watched, yeah, I get you had a really depleted squad now that I look at it. But what they seem to do and what they kind of tried against Canada was, I guess, what you sort of have to do when you're the Cayman Islands. You just kind of have to blockade your box and hope no one gets to the inside. And you did score 3 goals, but I mean, I feel like maybe you were hoping for a bit more. Do you think that's going to be a problem versus Canada? You know, maybe an inability to break into the inside, or do you think, that's something with a full squad that's not going to be a problem?
It's gonna be less of a problem because against Canada we played a little bit more against Cayman we played a little bit more defensively because our front line wasn't there. Josef Soon wasn't in Suriname yet. Sherry wasn't there. Biseswar wasn't there. So we just actually tried to put as many professional players on the field as possible, and those were defenders. We had some trouble breaking it down, but my personal opinion was if Sherry was there, if Biseswar was there, the chance was there would have been more chances. Those are the kind of guys who need to unlock defenses, and they weren't there against Cayman. And it was a pretty professional display. That was my opinion about the match against Cayman Islands. It wasn't forcing anything. We scored 2 goals. If you guys want to sit back and defend, you just do you. We'll just take the win and do this long trip back to play Aruba because it was very hectic for these guys. They had a pretty busy schedule and it was a professional performance. Against Canada, it will be difficult, but not because of the defensive style of Canada. It'll be difficult because Canada is a much better team. We have much more questions that will be asked of our defense, and that will pose a pretty good challenge.
Yeah, I definitely understand that difficulty. When the Canadians were playing in the Olympic qualifiers a few months ago, we had a bit of a COVID outbreak, at least on the European flight to Mexico, and we couldn't call up any of our midfielders from from Toronto, which is where most of our academy players are. So that made things really rough, and we definitely understand what happens when you don't have like the ideal players in ideal circumstances. So just to summarize all that, what would you say is the greatest strength of this team, and what would you say is the greatest weakness of this Suriname team?
I think our biggest strength is our defense. Our defense is we have specialists in we have a very good left back, we have a very good right back, even 2 good right backs, and the center of defense we have 3 to 4 pretty good center halves. So defensively, I'm pretty happy. Even the midfield is maybe not the youngest midfield that of all the Caribbean nations, but they're very technical. So we have creative players and we have defensive strong midfield players as well. So those 2 parts of the field is very strong. Going forward, we're just subpar. We're not bad in the front areas, especially with the addition of Geraldo Becker. But I need to see if he's fit. So when the matches are played against Bermuda and Becker plays good, we'll know a lot more about how good our front line is. But if the weakest line of those 3 is, yeah, I think going forward. But maybe the most important player in these matches, or in particular this match against Canada, will be our goalkeeper. Warner Hahn hasn't played a lot of football. Our second goalkeeper, Ishan Kort, has been playing in the juniors of Almere City. And the third goalkeeper, Clyde Koyenor, has also not played because there's no competition in Suriname. The league's not been playing because of COVID. So Warner Han will be very, very, very important. If he plays good, I think Suriname can win. If he plays bad, it'll be very difficult. So that is, I think, our weakest, our most vulnerable position. Even though he's good, he's not match fit as the other players.
I mean, he has kept 2 clean sheets so far, and that's something we can't say against about our own goalkeeper, who I don't know if you saw the highlights, but he really
I saw
botched
that.
up. Yeah, he really botched up a catch against Bermuda, so we don't have any clean sheets anymore, or just the one against the Cayman Islands. Um,
But
so
he's not been tested. So I think the only actions that I did the match in English, and I only mentioned Warner Han 2 times, and those 2 times were Warner Han hasn't done anything yet. So
that's
so
amazing.
yeah, there are clean sheets, and we're pretty happy about that. But it's not the best statistic to score him
True.
by, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Clean sheets can be misleading. I'm glad you brought up those players because those are some of the guys I want to ask you about. For Ryan Donk in particular, I think there's a really in Canada, the big dilemma we have is where we should play Alfonso Davies. Because of course with Bayern Munich he plays as a left back. He doesn't really play anywhere else. But with Canada, when we've played him at left back, he hasn't really been able to get into those attacking positions we want to see him in. So we usually push him up to the wing. And I think you guys sort of have a similar dilemma with Ryan Donk and Ridciano Haps. For Donk in particular, yeah, I guess you said, of course, you had the depleted squad in the first game. But I noticed in the second game, a lot of your midfield was out of position. You had Kevin Leerdam, who's, of course, a right back at CDM. And I'm curious if you're going to do a similar thing with Donk against Canada, who, of course, can play as a center back or a defensive midfielder. Do you think you're going to deploy him to strengthen your midfield a bit, or do you think you're going to keep him in the back line?
I'm not sure about this. I'm definitely not sure about this because the biggest dilemma that I have in our national team is, do you drop Shaquille Pinas, who is very talented in my eyes, one player for the future, somebody who can be maybe be our national captain? Do you drop him or do you drop Mienti Abena, who is a champion in Slovakia, and he's pretty strong, pretty fast. So do you drop one of those to pair alongside Ryan Donk, or do you just keep them both and put Donk to play center of midfield? I personally think that Jorge really sees Donk more as a center half, a central defender. So I think they'll put Leerdam to play center of the midfield as a single pivot. And there's a tough decision to be made about who's gonna pair with Ryan Donk. Either way, it's gonna be a lot of tough decisions, and particularly because we're not gonna drop Donk. If you put Donk playing center of the midfield, centrally on the midfield, what do you do with the right back position? Because
Yeah,
do you take Dankerle or do you take Leerdam? I personally don't think it's an option to leave Kevin Leerdam out of the field. So it's difficult, it's hard, but personally, my opinion is that I think he'll play with Donk center of the defense. He's much more comfortable with having him there. Regarding Riciano Haps, I don't think there's a lot of discussion about Haps. Haps will play as a left back. If we utilize him as a left wing back, that I need to see, because of course it's not the same team as Feyenoord, but he'll play left back and he'll make his moves going forward.
that was a great answer. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to make you do it again because I had the exact same question about Haps. Should he play as a left back, or are you going to move him up to the wing to strengthen your front line?
He's gonna play as a left back. He's gonna play as a left back. He's not gonna play as a left wing back. And the reason why is we already have Geraldo Becker there.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
Geraldo Becker is one of the best players in of this team. It may occur that Becker will play about 60 or 70 minutes, but even then, I don't think they'll put Riciano Haps there. I think if Hap goes out, the chance is big that Nigel Hasselbank will just play on that position again. So Haps will play as a left back. It was one of the most difficult positions for us to fill in. That's another reason why it's almost certain that he'll play left back. We didn't really have a left back. The last match, Shaquille Pinas played left back, who is a center half, and the match before that, Kelvin Leerdam played as a right back. And yeah, Leerdam isn't really a left-footed player, so it's a position that's a hole that was a hole in our team, and it's been filled up pretty well by Riciano Haps.
Yeah, that'll be an exciting matchup to see. Whether he goes up against Davies or Laren or David, that'll be interesting to see. And yeah, you're talking about Charles Becker. That's my next question, because I guess he's one of your big commitments. He's in a top league in the Bundesliga with Berlin. What kind of player is he? What should we expect?
You should expect, if he's fit, uh, speedy winger, a very powerful, very speedy winger. A little bit Alfonso Davy-ish. Not on that level, but he's not a player who will go and bring brilliant crosses in. He's somebody who wants to get past his man and use his speed to create chances. So that is what you guys are need to watch out for. It's gonna be particularly interesting how he will go alongside Riciano Haps, because of course Haps is also a player who wants to beat his man and get the ball into the box. But Geraldo Becker is, if he's fit, he's very, very dangerous because of his speed and because of his power. He's not a flair player. He's not somebody who's going to bring the crosses in, but he's going to be a constant threat because of his pace.
Okay. Okay, that's something. And then the last player specific question I want to ask you is about I guess it's more about the midfield in general. So I sort of already alluded to this with Ryan Donk, but it seems there's just a dilemma that Dean has between playing a midfield that play as midfielders with their club or putting the best players on the field. So, and I think like we saw that with Diego Bissawar, who I mean he's a winger, right? He's not necessarily a central midfielder. Do you see guys like Bissawar or Cherry playing over people who actually play as midfielders like Dion Malone or Mitchell Donald?
So, Biseswar is both. Biseswar played when he was in Holland in Feyenoord. He was playing on the midfield.
Okay.
Now he's even also playing midfieldish if when he plays in Cyprus. But he's very good in Cyprus, so they utilize him all over the place. So Biseswar isn't somebody who is not familiar on the midfield position. Actually, the only player who would be out of position playing on the midfield would be Kelvin Leerdam. But even Leerdam, in his time in Holland, played some part on midfield. So there aren't really players who are out of position in that midfield.
Okay.
Except for Leerdam. But what is a dilemma for Jorge is, will he play with the age-old question of the midfield, of course? Will he play with two defensive midfielders or will he play with one defensive midfielders, especially if Canada is overrunning them? And then the proposition of Mitchell Donald comes into play. Do you put Mitchell Donald, who has not played a lot of matches, do you put him there to be the strong body that he is? And do you pair him alongside with a Leerdam to have a double pivot on the midfield? So that is, I personally think, the dilemma that Jorge has. But no, he's not really gonna play people out of positions, especially because these guys played in Holland. You know those stories about total football. You need to
Yeah.
be astute to play on every position. So it's not really a problem.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I learned something new there. And I guess before we wrap this off, um, is there anyone else I missed that you think is going to be an important player in this game?
Florian Jozefzoon. For me, Jozefzoon is
Yeah.
is a star. Jozefzoon is a star, especially if you pair him alongside with Mitchell Tevrede. Mitchell Tevrede is a tall center forward that is, I think, 6'2" or something like that, 1 meters and 90 centimeters, 1 meter 90. So is a player who does things with his head. And Florian Jozefzoon in the CONCACAF is one of the best crossers of the ball. So that is in particular something I'm looking forward to. How will Jozefzoon connect with the Frede? So that will be on my watch list, of course. The guy's playing in the championship. He didn't really have the best of seasons, of course, because he is relegated. But he's somebody to watch out for, in particular in combination with Mitchell Tevrede, if of course Tevrede plays.
And last question is, do you have a prediction? What's the score going to be for this game?
I think about 4-0 for Suriname is fair enough.
That seems reasonable.
That's a tough one, man. I'm not really the best in
Do
predicting the
it.
score, but I'm gonna say it's gonna be a spectacular 3-2 win for Suriname.
Wow, that sounds action packed. Um,
That
Bjorn,
sounds action-packed.
we really appreciate you coming here. It's great that you made time for this. Oh, are you still gonna be traveling with the team, by the way?
No, I don't think so. We're not going to be traveling with a team. It's very difficult. I almost couldn't go into the stadium for the match which we were playing in Bermuda. We need to be COVID tested to even broadcast this. So no, I'm not going to be traveling with the team. There is a small media team that will go alongside Suriname. It will be a heavy trip. Suriname will play on Friday. The match is local time 7 o'clock. It'll take till 9 o'clock. Then they'll arrive at the hotel at 10, and at 12 o'clock they need to be at the airport. So there's not a lot of room to relax. So hopefully they'll be there on the 7th, and they'll have some time to rest up. Excuse me, they'll be there on the 6th or the 5th, so they'll have some time to get used to Chicago. But it's pretty hectic for those guys. But to answer your question, no, I'm not going. But maybe I can ask you, what do you think that they will do with Davies? Will they put him as a winger? I'm not gonna tell Dean, I promise you.
That's oh my God, you're doing some espionage here. Yeah, I think Davies is a winger when we play teams like Suriname. Um, I just think every time we put him in the back line, um, he no matter who it's against, like he kind of shows he's not a great defender and he's not doing what he's good at. And with Bayern, he has cover. He has elite players all around. With Canada, he doesn't have that same cover, and we can't afford to just leave. We can't afford to just leave the entire left side open like that, especially if he would be playing behind someone like Kyle Aaron, who
Yeah.
he spends all his time in the box. That's what he does. So yeah, I have Sam Adekugbe, who plays in Norway, which is I'd have him at left back behind Davies or Blaren or whoever ends up there. Davies can play on the left or right wing. Um, but yeah, this was a great interview. Gave really in-depth answers, and I'm really appreciate you coming here. Thanks a lot, Dion.
Anytime, man, anytime.